So our initial disclaimer, just as a reminder, I am not a financial expert. I am not a CFP. Reverse Vision is not giving these calculations. They're not intended to provide financial, legal, or tax advice. We do want you to illustrate the benefit of a HECM, but this is just a concept. It's not a product, so you will be using this product with no warranty or support. So let's get into the main focus today. We need to find a way in the current marketplace to make the HECM compelling to well-funded retirees. The current issues that we have is most people view this as a last resort. We know financial planners aren't explaining all the HECM's benefits. And most importantly, we know even HECMs today are not being used to their full potential. The solution in our minds is to empower education, give you guys the tools that you need to be successful, and demonstrate how the HECM can improve a portfolio's performance, and also just prepare you to go out into the world and continue to educate financial planners and other people about the benefits of this product. We want to focus on what is the difference of this call and what are we specifically talking about. And it really comes down to a simple conversation of needs-based versus well-funded retirees. We know that needs-based borrowers are more focused on changing the situation immediately. They need something to happen financially for them now, right? It's a different presentation. It's a different use of the HECM. Well-funded retirees, on the other hand, are less worried about doing anything now because they feel that they've adequately prepared for the future. And somehow we need to focus on how we can break down that stereotype. We think that regardless if you're well-funded, you should still consider longevity risk, and you should still consider what would happen if you were to outlive your money. Would your quality of life change? Things like that. In the current marketplace, we've seen a lot of volatility, so we want to be careful that we protect those assets. These are things that if you are well-funded, you should still be considering. And overall, we're looking of ways that we can help them enhance their withdrawal amounts, their longevity of the portfolio, and ultimately the total estate's net worth. It starts with identifying the difference in how these people think. In the past, when we're focused on needs-based retirees, it's easy to talk to them about the reverse mortgage, to convey their hopes and their fears of their current situation, to play to the emotions and the egos that they know they're in trouble. They know they need to do something. They know they haven't adequately prepared. Based on maybe their behaviors or styles, they got in this place in the first place, or they got to this position in the first place where they've taken out lines of credits in down markets or done things that they shouldn't have done to put themselves in this situation. They care very little about the economics because it's easy to illustrate, hey, if you do a reverse mortgage today, we're going to change your situation by giving you more cash, extinguishing a forward mortgage, providing you with monthly payments where you're short of income. It's a very easy approach. Well-funded retirees, on the other hand, their buying rationale is completely different. They've already focused on economics. They felt that they're well prepared. They've sat with a financial planner, or they understand financial planning themselves, so they've assessed risk. They're looking at things that are strategic fit, and they don't really see this as a strategic fit in their portfolio or helping them succeed in retirement. That doesn't mean that you can't play to their emotions and egos, the fact that they have prepared, and speak logically to them and convey these concepts that will ultimately hopefully change their mind. They have a lot of experience. Most well-funded retirees understand financial planning. They understand these other elements, and they should be open once you demonstrate how the HECM can be a powerful tool for them. We all are aware of the common objections that we hear all the time. I'm well-funded. I don't need a reverse mortgage. Reverse mortgages are for desperate people. I should wait to do a reverse mortgage. The loan is too expensive, and my financial planner doesn't think it's a good idea. That's always been my favorite. Today, we hope to combat and break down these objections and give you the presentation and the tool that you would need to convey that the reverse mortgage actually is a powerful tool, and you still should consider it if you are well-funded. So let's start with understanding the concepts. Many of you that were at our UserCon event here in San Diego were exposed to some of these concepts, and you might have a background of knowledge of some of these things on your own. The intention is to provide an overview that will prepare you to how to explain the calculator tool that we give you today and how to convey what is actually happening with that tool. So before we get into it, we would ask that you would consider your audience. What is the goal of learning this information? What is the goal of learning how to use this tool? Are you focused on building a relationship with a financial planner, so you're going to speak to that group of people in which you need to focus your presentation for that group of people. Is your intention to work with a borrower of the day and then leverage one of your existing financial planning relationships? So you just want to work with them, convey enough of the concept, and then hand off to the financial planner who can really hit the point home and dive a lot deeper into these concepts. Or are you simply just going to work with the borrower directly? They don't have interest in working with a financial planner. You don't want to go fight that battle. You want to demonstrate just to the borrower that this is a core strategy that they should consider in retirement planning. We're going to start with understanding sequence of returns risk. So we'll have $1 million. We'll look at $1 million portfolio. We'll talk about 40,000 in annual withdrawals. We'll look at a scenario of bad, good, and good, bad. And when we say bad, good, good, bad, we're talking about the return rate. Both of these strategies average a 5% return. So let's take a look here. Over a 20-year period, you can see bad, good. We've got negative returns in the first 5 years versus good, bad experiences the negative returns in the last 5 years. When we graph the impact out on the portfolio, this first line is showing what the portfolio, how the portfolio performs over the 20 years. It started at $1 million, and you can see with bad, good, it did not perform too well. With good, bad, you can see quite the opposite. It performed strong out the gate and then experienced bad returns later on. This obviously matters to a retiree because if you experience bad returns up front, it's harder to recover. Well, we all know that it's unpredictable, and we don't know at which sequence those returns will happen. This dotted line in the middle is just showing how using a reverse mortgage line of credit in the bad, good scenario. So the green, what this illustrates is that every year, following a year of negative return, this individual took a draw from the line of credit. You can see that with a reverse mortgage, it predicts, it recovers quite nicely and allows their portfolio to recover into the latter years of retirement. So sequence of returns, simply put, is the order in which the investment's returns occur. Sequence of returns risk is when negative returns in the first few years decrease the performance of the portfolio. The point is that we want to make here is that the order of returns matter, and we can't predict the order of returns. That was just an illustration of when the returns were predictable. The opportunity here is because returns are unpredictable, we can show how the HECM can be used as a strategy to protect the portfolio performance, as illustrated by the green line in the previous graph. Let's go ahead and look at another example. The illustration of the green line and using the HECM post negative years is called coordinated approach. And we're going to compare two portfolios. We've got Silly Sally and we've got Brilliant Bob. Their strategy was very different. Silly Sally's scenario, she never got a HECM, and she draws no matter what. She doesn't care what the market does, whether it's up or down. She's going to take a draw from her portfolio. Brilliant Bob, on the other hand, he got the HECM early, and he's going to draw from the line of credit post-bear market years, so only after years of negative return. We're going to do a little bit of a different example. Good, bad, and bad, good is a stretch, right? We just say 8% for X amount of years and negative 5% for X amount of years. In this example, what we'll do is we'll take the S&P 500 20-year history. So we'll start back in 96, and we'll show their portfolio with this strategy over that 20 years. So as you look at the comparison here on the far left-hand side, you can see the year followed by the actual return based on the S&P 500 history. And then we've got Sally and Bob's portfolio. Let's take a closer look at what happened in this example. So we experienced 4 bear years of negative returns. You can see illustrated here by the arrows starting in year 5 where the return was negative 9. We also experienced a negative return later on in year 13. Sally, as we had said before, she drew her portfolio no matter what. And she didn't have a HECM, but she drew her portfolio even in those negative years. Now, Bob, his strategy was slightly different. He used that coordinated approach. You can see that post the first year in year 5 of the negative return, he starts drawing $12,000 from his line of credit. What that allows him to do is he leaves his portfolio alone. His portfolio continues to recover after the negative years. Let's take a closer look at the overall outcome of that strategy. You can see here at the end result of 20 years that Bob's portfolio actually outperformed Sally by 120K. It's a 13.5% increase, And all because he was able to use the $48,000 from the line of credit to allow his portfolio to recover. So coordinated strategy, just a reminder, it's simply the strategy to draw from a line of credit following a year of negative returns. Now, we just illustrated one path, one scenario of fixed returns based on a history. But what about the future? How can we illustrate what rates will be tomorrow, next year, and even the next 10 years? We need a way to show multiple paths, thousands of paths, to simulate what will the future be. And this method is called Monte Carlo simulation. And so Monte Carlo simulation does just that. It uses thousands of iterations and random variables to predict the probability of success. So using thousands of possible return sequences, we ultimately produce a percentage, which is the probability of success that that portfolio or that strategy will succeed. Overall, this is going to provide your clients a hypothetical picture of how investment portfolio may perform over time. And this is a very popular strategy used in the financial planning world. We're going to model that. So in this example, we're going to use a $800,000 investment portfolio. We're going to have a 60-40 portfolio composition, and then we're going to use a Monte Carlo of a 1,000-point simulation. You can see here what we graph out the gate is using a 4% withdrawal strategy of that 800,000. This is how that looks over 30 years. You can see that the probability of success is right at 90%, which is the industry standard for success. Anything 90 and above is considered to be very likely to happen. Now, using the coordinated approach we just demonstrated, we show an increased withdrawal of 1%, which ends up allowing this person to take 25% more cash. You can see using that coordinated strategy, we actually have an increased rate of survival. So we're right around 94%. Showing another example, if we take even 2% more than the average using the coordinated approach, what that allows us to do is take 50% more cash in portfolio withdrawals, and it still shows a 80% survival. This is powerful. We're going to look more closely at the numbers and what that equates to and the difference between 4 to 6% in the withdrawal strategy. The message here is that we want to convey that you're well funded, and I get that. But allow me 5 minutes to show you a method that can increase your portfolio. In doing that, you can see there's not just one outcome. It's not all about increased cash. The reason we illustrate today increased cash is purely because if I can show you how we can increase the withdrawal rate and survivability over time, clearly I have the ability to increase the estate. We need to start asking the right questions and find out what their wants are. Now that you understand that I can either give you more cash, improve the survivability of your portfolio, or increase the overall value of your estate, what is the most important to you? Is it a combination of these things? Is it one of these things? And hopefully you can find some ground to stand on in terms of getting through to the retiree or the financial planner. Now, let's talk about financial planning. I get it. It's complicated, right? They evaluate clients' current situations. They're identifying sources of income, assets available to generate retiree income. They're making preliminary calculations. They're using things like Monte Carlo simulation to try to see how prepared is someone for retirement. Their goal is to develop strategies, address shortfalls, consider legal and tax issues that can derail a plan, and they have to look at overall all retirement risk. Okay? That's a lot, and we can respect that. But as a reverse mortgage advisor, your job is easy. It should be to simplify the approach and convey the benefit of one of these tools. You know that this tool should be considered and respected in the financial planning community, and you know that this is a valid strategy for retirement planning. We hope that through these methods, you'll be able to take that approach. Don't get on the level of getting into the weeds and the details. It's the simplicity of illustrating what can the HECM do for someone's portfolio over time. If we simplify financial planning, we could say that it's the source of funds plus the utilization of these funds equals financial planning. Every financial planner's goal should be the same. It's to review client current portfolio, income sources, and create a plan that's logical and explainable. If you or a financial planner get behind this and agree that this is the correct strategy, then how can we not show that a HECM line of credit as a source of funds plus the strategy of take the HECM early to avoid sequence of returns risk will equal improve portfolio performance. We want to make complicated things simple for them. It's one strategy that we're suggesting has a drastic impact on the outcome. All right, so this whole presentation today is to talk about how to use our analysis tool and what that does. We've invented what we're calling a probabilities calculator. The probabilities calculator relies on certain inputs to use Monte Carlo simulation to show varying strategies of how a reverse mortgage can play a role in someone's portfolio. We're going to illustrate 4 basic strategies. Getting the reverse mortgage as the last resort. What this means is use your portfolio till it's completely exhausted and drained, and then go out and do a reverse mortgage. We're going to demonstrate get the reverse mortgage as soon as possible and then use all of the proceeds first. So here you would be taking your withdrawals, whether it's 4%, 5%, from the reverse mortgage and not from your portfolio. You would allow the portfolio to continue to work. Versus the strategy of get a reverse mortgage early and then exhaust the portfolio, so you allow your HECM line of credit to grow over time, and then use that line of credit now that it's grown as the withdrawal once the portfolio is exhausted. This is a reflection of a study done by John Salter and Harold Avinsky. I would encourage you, if you haven't read into more of those details, to go look at those details. It's also going to demonstrate, we're going to demonstrate the coordinate approach, which we've talked about today. This is our specific focus, and this is a strategy made famous by Dr. Barry Sachs and his article, Reversing the Conventional Wisdom Using the Home Equity to Supplement Retirement Income. If you want additional details, I would encourage you to read that article as well. So let's talk about how do I actually use the calculator. We want you to sit down, and whether you're creating what ifs or you're talking to a financial planner or borrower, the simplicity is personalize each example. Complete 10 total inputs. You can see here on the right-hand side. Select and deselect the strategies after the scenario is run. And to make the scenario run, all you do is you click the button. So let's dive a little deeper so you guys understand under the hood what is actually happening with each one of these things. So how are the investment assets used? All 3 assets are considered as part of the withdrawal strategy. Distribution, so the allocation of the assets is pari passu or equally distributed. Simple example is you need $3. It's going to take $1 from each one of these strategies, as long as there's money in that strategy or in that asset to be taken. Let's talk about the rate of returns. So assets and bank accounts, there is 0 rate of return. We did not put 0.5%, 0.1%, anything like that. They're going to be used until they're gone. Now assets and stocks and bonds on the other hand, that's where we're using the Monte Carlo simulation. And the Monte Carlo simulation is using 4,000 random iterations or sequences. The rate is going to continue to be changed annually, and then the rate changes are randomized based on a mean and standard deviation, which is different for each asset class. So stocks and bonds, that's getting a little more technical. They have their own deviation at which the rate of change. The home, it's very simple. You enter the home value and you enter the appreciation rate. It's just important to know that the appreciation rate is only relevant if you're using the reverse mortgage as last resort, as the home value is going to appreciate by that percentage until the time that the reverse mortgage is taken. All other scenarios, because you're taking the reverse up front, it's calculated off just the home value, and the appreciation rate does not apply. Let's look at how we calculate the reverse mortgage. It's going to be based on the start age. So here you're going to want to assume that the start age is the youngest borrower. We'll use the expected rate of index to identify between the age and the expected rate of index, where does it fall in the principal limit factor table. And then we say we use max claim amount. That's because you can enter 800,000, 900,000, whatever it is. We're going to use the lending limit, and then we will work from there, from the max claim amount. It does also assume that there's a deduction from the principal limit of the appropriate IMIP, and then 2,000 base closing costs. It's important to note that this does not account for any other origination fee that would also be deducted from the principal limit. The rates, you guys know how rates work. You're industry experts. I would recommend that if you're using the expected rate, just look at what the current rate is in RV. For the initial rate, it's reflected by the initial rate of index plus the lender margin This here, if you're going to change that rate, just know that you're giving the total initial rate, which is the index plus the margin. And as most of you know, the line of credit is going on the growth rate from the initial rate plus the MIP of the 1.25%, which is fixed. On the left-hand side, you would know that anything that's grayed out is disabled. You don't have the ability to change. So age, what you're going to want to do is you're going to evaluate the start age of when you intend on initiating the withdrawals from the portfolio. This is also the age that they would consider taking the reverse mortgage. And then enter the desired end age. What is the longevity that you want to show here? Is it to age 100, to age 95, to age 85? You can enter whatever value you want here, and then longevity of years will calculate. Expenses, we're gonna use a flat just one expense for inflation. So what you'll do here is you're going to input a fixed percentage, which is going to increase the cash needed year after year. That's to keep just keep up with the inflation rate, and so it's assessed on an annual basis. A simple example of how this works: if we enter inflation of 1%, we assume that the total cash withdrawal in year 1 is $24,000. You can see in year 2 it applies the 1%, and then in year 3 it applies the 1% on year 2. So that's going to keep rolling until the portfolio is exhausted, or until the the total longevity in years. All right. So the most important thing after we enter all of our inputs, we click that run button, we look and evaluate the results. Let's break down how the results are illustrated in the calculator. The first thing to understand is that we will always show, no matter what you put in the inputs, we will always show a fixed return of 4 to 13%. So along the bottom, you can see 4 to 13%. This is the withdrawal from the portfolio. What that means in dollars is shown and represented in the around the green box with the cash next to it. So you can see here that at 4%, it means I'm withdrawing $2,750 from the portfolio every month. You can see different at 10%, that's $6,875 every month. Now, based on that withdrawal strategy, how much money you're taking every month, there's a probability of success that's associated to that. So here you can see, based on the strategy of no reverse mortgage all the way down to coordinated approach or get a reverse mortgage and hedge against sequence of returns, it's a probability of success that I could actually succeed at taking that much money. We'll take a closer look here in the next slide. So to simplify it, we've talked a lot about coordinated approach. I'm going to stick with just comparing those two options. What I've done is I've deselected all the other options, and we're just comparing no reverse mortgage versus the coordinated approach. You can see here that if you look at the percentages for no reverse mortgage, it graphically lines up. The first one is 98%, that's the start of the curve, and then the 5% withdrawal, you've got 84% and so on. That's not what we want to focus on. Let's focus on 6%. And the reason we're going to focus on 6% is 4% is considered the industry standard of a withdrawal strategy. So most people are going to withdraw at 4% from their portfolio. That's why it's the benchmark, it's the starting point. We're going to examine 6% because we want to increase and make that better for the person that you're talking to. So if they have no reverse mortgage and they're just drawing from their portfolio, if they wanted to increase their cash from $2,750 to $4,125, they only have a 47% chance that that's going to work for them. They might exhaust their portfolio early. But using the reverse mortgage and using the strategy of coordinated approach to protect against sequence of returns risk, it's almost a 94% increase. So that's a 46% difference of success. It's a pretty big margin for someone. And when you look at what that does in terms of dollars for that individual, it's $1,375 more a month. And if you think about that, that's $330,000 over 25 years. It's important to note that this scenario that I ran here was based on an $800,000 portfolio, somebody starting at age 70, and the strategy of ending at 95. Okay? So over a 25-year period with an $800,000 portfolio, if a person intends to draw only 4%, they're only going to be able to get $2,750. So when you look at 6%, you can illustrate that with the reverse mortgage, you're able to get almost $1,400 more in cash. well, how do you overcome objectives like it's too expensive and I don't know if I want to do that, or all this other stuff that they throw out there? If you look at the effect on the portfolio over 25 years, that's $330,000. It now becomes easier to break down someone's objection that I don't want to pay or finance $12,000 in closing costs or whatever it might be. You can have that conversation and say, are you not willing to finance $12,000 to get protection of over $330,000 over 25 years, or get added value in your portfolio? I'm going to go ahead and jump to the actual calculator. We'll look at a couple other examples here. I'm going to pause for a minute before we get going and see if I can look at these questions here. Bear with me just a minute. All right, I apologize for the delay. Okay, so getting back to the portfolio, this is an example of something that I have been showing you throughout this presentation. We assumed that there was 25,000 assets here in their bank accounts. We took that portfolio of 800,000, we divided that 60% into stocks and 40% into CDs and bonds. We show the retiree with the average home value of 300,000 and an appreciation rate of 1%, and we're illustrating 70 to 95. If we wanted to change this scenario, we would simply just go to the inputs here. We can say no cash. Let's give something like 120,000. In bonds, we'll do 160,000 here. So this person's done an okay job of retirement planning. They've got, a small portfolio, but let's assume that their home value is a lot larger. We'll do 500,000. We'll keep everything else the way that it is to give some perspective here, and then we'll go ahead and run the Monte Carlo. You can see in the bottom left-hand corner here, under the button, it's going to show you the percent complete. So what it's doing right now is it's running 4,000 possible sequences for each strategy. So right now it ran 4,000 sequences for no reverse mortgage. It produces a result. It's now running 4,000 sequences for reverse mortgage as last resort, and it will produce the result. So we'll wait here. Approximately takes about a minute for this to produce. You can see we're just about finished here. All right, so now that the scenario is finished, If you were just to compare whatever options on the left-hand side, you'll just deselect the ones that you want to compare. So if we don't care about reverse mortgage as a last resort, we know that that's a bad strategy. We can go ahead and eliminate it, or we can show it. Let's go ahead and get rid of the get reverse mortgage first and last. So we'll compare no reverse mortgage as last resort, and then get a reverse mortgage and use the coordinated approach. So this is an illustration. You can see the gap. If this person here, based on this portfolio and the information that we've inputted, if they're going to take 4% withdrawal, they only have a 99% chance that that's going to succeed, but they only get $933. This is when you're starting to have those conversations. This scenario does not assume any mortgage payments or mortgages on the property. It's assuming that the property is free and clear. So if you're looking at how that's going to affect them later on for the reverse, that's going to even be less money. We make the assumption here that this person has other income. They have Social Security. They have pensions. They're using the portfolio withdrawals to subsidize the rest of the cash that they need to get through retirement. So you start to ask yourselves, in this scenario, based on the current cash needs, is $933 a month, is that going to be enough money to cover your retirement until age 95? Some people are comfortable with that, some people aren't. The further you get in terms of withdrawal percentages, you examine the success rate. Notice that just here in 6%, we're down to 50% chance that with no reverse mortgage that this person is going to be able to take $1,400 a month. Using the reverse mortgage as last resort or sequence of returns, yeah, it's 100%, but this starts to vary over time. So let's jump here to 10% withdrawal. You can see that the coordinated approach continues to outperform the reverse mortgage as last resort. So not every case is going to be the same, but what you're starting to illustrate is that using the reverse mortgage as a coordinated approach, or using the reverse mortgage even as a last resort, it's still better than never getting the reverse mortgage. The specific argument that we're trying to make now today is to say getting a reverse mortgage as last resort versus the coordinated approach or any other approach, getting it first, is far superior. And this portfolio doesn't really illustrate that as well. So I'm going to go back to the $800,000 portfolio. We're going to re-enter those numbers here. I'm going to go ahead and lower the home value again, $300,000. We'll leave all the other information the same. Make sure we select these boxes again, and now we'll go ahead and run the simulation. So it looks like we've got a couple questions. I'll address a couple of the questions that we had from earlier. So a question from Bill Phillips: what about factoring in the cost of the borrowed money from the HECM? The borrowed $48,000 would be about $75,000 after 9 years. That's true in that example. If you're talking about the $48,000 being amortized, over with the loan balance, I believe that's what you're saying. The point that we're trying to make is even in that scenario, that's $75,000 after 9 years, his portfolio still outperformed the other woman by $120,000, so you still have that gap there. There's another question that says, does this analysis include the amount of equity that is used? And I don't know which one you're referring to. Joe, if you could clarify, or we can wait until we unmute people and then we can chat a little further on that subject. All right, looks like the scenario is done here. Everything is ran. We've got our example. So let's just go ahead and remove no reverse mortgage, and let's examine the other four. So in combating that they should wait, that it's better to take the reverse mortgage and use it last, you can see that every one of these other strategies and using it first outperforms using it as the last resort. So based on the borrower situation, you would obviously need to manipulate the conversation to reflect what their actual situation is. But the point is you don't want to wait. You can't guarantee that there's not an emergency or something else that they're not prepared for, that they don't need to change their withdrawal strategy. And so illustrating these other approaches compared to the RM of last resort, you can clearly see how much better it is. And to see that, you look at the probability of success. Here we're again in the 6%, 76% success rate as last resort, that taking 4K a month is going to last. Versus using it as the coordinated approach, it's 94% success rate. Or even get the reverse mortgage first and draw last, so you allow the line of credit to grow over time, is a 94% success rate. When you look at 7%, it's drastically different because of the amount of money we're taking. But again, you have that comparison that this is only a 37% chance of success. So what are the odds that in retirement something changes for you, Mr. or Mrs. Borrower, and you need an additional $600 withdrawn? You can see here that if that's the case, you're only going to have a 37% chance to succeed versus one of these other strategies that would yield a greater result. We're going to go ahead and go back to the presentation, but this is the type of tool that we're giving you today. And so we want you to be able to use this and then provide feedback of how this is useful, how it could be better, what's missing, what did you not understand, and then we'll go ahead and rework and go from there. Okay, so it looks like, Joe, you were able to clarify. Does the analysis include the amount of equity that is used? Both of them. Is this recorded? Yes, this is recorded. We'll be able to distribute the presentation as well at the end. I'm going to go ahead and keep going, and then we'll see if we can unmute the line so we can dive a little deeper into some of these questions. So next steps for you guys, we want you to take action. We're hoping that you're going to go educate early use of the HECM and more specifically the coordinated approach, that the increase in the success rate that someone can have even if they're well funded. We would hope that you all put together. So we want to give you some added graphs and charts like we did in this presentation to maybe strengthen these key points. And then overall, we want you to go out there and use the tool. We've got this probabilities calculator. I've showed you how to use it. We want you to personalize the impact of the strategy, and then let us know, is this working? What's not working, like we had mentioned before? Overall, we feel that it's time to seize the opportunity. Consider revising your marketing targets, your messages to people. Who is your outreach? How are you getting into these other meetings with financial planners? We want you to be confident the time is now. We've talked about this for a lot of years. The time is now. Act now. Do this now. But truly, the time is now. I'm well funded. I don't need it. The strategy protects against sequence of returns risk. It can show you how you can gain security in your portfolio. Okay? It gives you access to more cash. It allows you to improve your strategy. Were you only taking the 4% because that was all? Maybe that doesn't fit your lifestyle. You need more money or would like more money. You have survivability, protect against longevity risk, other risks that are out there. There's several types of risks that this strategy can help their portfolio survive. And then also increase the total estate. Think about that legacy that you're building and you're leaving. What is your end goal? Your attitude should be, I can show you why you should want it. I know you don't need it, but I can show you why you should want it. You have to start to believe and sell that the perfect time is here and that they should be acting now. And that's because of low interest rate environment, and it's because home values have increased. I'm going to show you another illustration of the effect of the expected rate on principal limit. In this calculation, we use a home value of 400,000. We've got an expected rate, which is just calculated by the 10-year LIBOR swap plus the lender's margin. And then we've got the 10-year LIBOR here assumes 2%, and we're using the lender margin as the variable to make each scenario. What I mean by that is, in the first example, we've got 2% for the expected rate, therefore the lender margin would be 3%. At age 62, you can see the percentage of the principal limit that they're getting, or excuse me, the percentage of the max claim amount that they're getting, and then you can see the actual principal limit. You can see what happens if they wait. Sure, it's more money, at age 90. But what happens if that interest rate, or excuse me, if that rate goes up? And you can see here at 6% the effect. So now it's less money at 62 and less money at 90. Well, what if it goes to 7%? These are things that we can't control. We're in a very low interest rate environment right now, and we know that rates are going to go up over time. The other caveat is you don't know the changes that HUD is going to make to the program. If we look at this illustration from 62 to age 76 to age 90, 1% difference, right, in the overall expected rate, look at the impact that this has. So if you're a 76-year-old person and the rate is 6%, you're getting still less than if you're a 62-year-old getting the reverse today. Okay? You're also missing out on the 14 years of growth of that line of credit and the protection that we illustrated earlier with the coordinated approach. This is a slide that can be powerful for people when you're met with that objection, I'm just going to wait. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, and you want to illustrate that right now it can't get any better in terms of rates. This was a study put out by Normla that also shows senior home equity in trillions of dollars. The important thing to note here is the curve. Many of us have been originating for a long time. I know many of you know the pain of originating through 2008, 2009, and 2010s. We were met with valid objections. You know, my home value is down. I don't want to do this product right now. I'm not going to get as much money as I can get if I wait. Well, that time has come. The values have bounced back. You can see that it's continuing to rise, and there no longer should be that excuse, I think my home value is going to appreciate to more value. Show them how the line of credit growth can help them in that area. We hope you guys are excited about future opportunities with RV. I'm sorry for the struggles that we had earlier on this call and the technical challenges of not being able to answer and take the questions. We will work through that and get better. We want you to join some of the groups that we have. We have a group called Sales Origination Think Tank, or SOT group. They not only participate in opportunities like this, but they have a more intimate grasp of where we're going with our software. So this is a group that I run that we rely on to provide feedback. If you'd like to participate in this group, please email rvsafeedback@reversevision.com, and you can go to LinkedIn and you can request to join the group, and then we'll talk from there. We also have the new tool that we've been touting and that we showed at our UserCon with RVSA. We want to continue to build on this. We have a lot of things that are going on right now, a lot of exciting modules that are being created as we speak. These sales tools and these focus groups that you participate in are going to be driving and help provide feedback for the tools of the future that we are bringing as a company. If you haven't already today, we would encourage you to go log in and use your same credentials as you use today for RVX, or our core product, RV Exchange. All right, let's see if we can take you guys off mute and answer some of the questions on the phone that you might have had about the presentation today. All right, I believe I've unmuted the line. If you guys, if someone has a question, feel free. If not, raise your hand and we'll see if you can unmute just your individual line. Joe, are you there?
I am. Yeah, so my question was about equity. Does this analysis, and I think it does, include the use of equity as far as the overall portfolio? You know, not the portfolio, but the overall net worth of the individual.
Yeah, so this model is not intended, we don't show the effect on the estate, so you can't see what's happening to that equity. Like we don't show how that affects the equity. In this model, we are using the equity obviously for the reverse mortgage. So we do that calculation, and then that whatever equity in the home, we're assuming that they have no mortgage. Is that what you mean?
Not really. So what I meant was, in the case of, there was one case where I think it was somebody withdrew $48,000, right? I think Brilliant Bob.
Oh, okay. You're going back to the actual, not the tool itself, but just in our presentation.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Let me go back to that slide for you.
Muted.
What specifically then?
So does the $48,000 that he's used from the equity in the home, I mean, that doesn't factor into any of this, obviously.
No, so this is showing the total portfolio. So what you don't see here illustrated is it's just showing the draws from the line of credit. You're not seeing the loan balance. You're not seeing any effect on the estate, anything like that. We're just purely looking at the impact of the portfolio. So the premise here is just to see that Sally, she kept drawing from portfolio and after the negative years of returns, versus Bob, he's using the line of credit in the $48,000 that he established in the HECM line of credit, rather than drawing from the portfolio. And that's how it shows his portfolio outperformed Sally. It doesn't have a comparison of equity, or doesn't have a comparison of total net estate value or anything like that.
But however, if you assume it's a $48,000 and you outperform by $120,000, you still outperform considerably Sally's portfolio if you were to subtract that.
That's correct, and that's the intention of this slide. If you wanted to show the net, and I think what Bill Phillips was asking, that we can let's see if unmute Bill, make sure that we cover his question, because I think he had something similar. Bill, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Okay, was your question similar to what Joe's getting at here? Is that you said something about
Absolutely.
79,000? Okay, yeah. So if you're looking at that, the point is to still convey that even though that's the case, there's still a drastic difference, right? There's still a net positive of using the line of credit in this example. Does that cover what you guys were wondering about?
Yeah, I think it does for me. I mean, ultimately, you're sitting down with the financial planner that's saying, I have all this asset, this total net worth, and how best do I want to use it for my clients? And so ultimately, if they held this for 25 years, maybe the borrowed cost of that $48,000 ends up being more than the portfolio, profit, the 120, because that's going to go up every year too. So, I think what the new system does works perfect. It just explains how you're using this entire amount of somebody's net worth. So.
I appreciate that, and that's exactly what it's intended to do. And we have, I believe you're at UserCon, both of you were at UserCon and saw another presentation. We have a separate tool that we're going to do another presentation like this. Like, again, this is just one of a series that we want to do, and that other tool will illustrate the net effect on the estate value. So being able to look at things like we're talking about right now, what is the total effect on the estate? And so we're trying to dial that in and get that more polished, and then we'll certainly bring that to you guys and start that focus group on that tool. All right, I'm going to go ahead and mute you guys if you don't have any other questions, and then go ahead and answer some other questions that are out there. All right, I've unmuted. We have Cecilia here. Cecilia, go ahead.
Hi, Joe. Yeah, hi. First
Hi.
off, tremendous job and so well thought out. Just excellent.
Thank you.
So you answered the question, though, earlier in saying that this is really designed for somebody, a well-funded person that does not have any mortgage. So in other words, we can't change around that principal limit to what's actually available to them. For instance, if they took $50,000 or if they had a mortgage to pay off. So I get that, and that's fine. And that answered the question. So basically, though, this is kind of geared towards having the borrower or guiding the borrower into a 10-year or keeping their principal limit in a line of credit.
That's correct. So
right.
Go ahead.
So I'm an account executive. I work primarily with loan officers all over the place, and so they, thinking of bottom line, and they're paid basically on initial draws and what's taken out from the reverse mortgage initially. So yeah. I just want to confirm, because probably 95% of the loans that I send through Reverse Vision are not tenure and they are taking money out, even in free and clear situations.
Yeah, so we have like I've been mentioning a series of presentations that we'll be doing. We're working on other tools that will empower them to show other things like you're talking about, other disbursements of the HECM and how they're using it. This presentation is aimed specifically at the person that you run into that says, you know what, I don't need it because I have a huge portfolio. There's nothing a reverse mortgage could do for me. In fact, if I ever did a reverse mortgage, I'm going to do it after I have no more money in my portfolio. And we're trying to break down that stereotype and show them that, okay, I understand and can respect your opinion, but if you allow me 5 minutes, I want to show you that taking a reverse mortgage now can drastically not only improve the performance of your portfolio, it can ultimately give you more options in retirement. Are you saying that you're opposed to having more options in retirement? Are you opposed to having security and portfolio protection? I can show you a guaranteed growth rate that allows you, you start getting into that conversation, right? So it's not geared towards someone that's like, hey, they're more of a needs-based borrower, or how can I illustrate that, instantly recovering $1,500 a month from my mortgage payment and not having that debt overhang over my head. How is that going to help me? This tool is not intended to demonstrate that.
Well, and on the other hand, we're also have, a lot of us lenders have changed our pricing model. So just for that specific reason. So for instance, if a borrower is only going to use 0 to 10% of their principal limit, their rebate is going to be way higher than if they used 100% of it. So we're all kind of going towards a system that's going to accommodate this kind of a program, because they'll get paid now more even though they're taking out less, because the lender will get paid more ultimately in years to come. So they've realized that and adjusted pricing accordingly.
That's correct. And there's other opportunities. The opportunity is, just sit down and focus on what it does, right? The what it does for every individual is going to be different. But if you can get people that are so against this idea or so against even entertaining it as a real option for retirement planning, to just show them, even if it doesn't apply to them, just show them the power of the tool, then you can say, okay, I understand that this isn't your exact situation, but now that you understand how much better your life could be or your retirement could be with a reverse mortgage, now let's talk about your situation. And then you could rely on RV's Loan Simulator and some of our other tools that we have to kind of illustrate where they stand today or where they might be in the near future.
Perfect. Great, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's see. Okay. Eric, I've unmuted you. How are you doing? Okay, so now this, Eric, can you hear me? Okay, we can't hear you if you're talking. I've unmuted you, but we can't hear you. So Eric's question, I'll just go ahead. We're going to mute you, Eric. Eric's question was, how do I join the future focus groups and be a part of the sales origination think tank? You can go to LinkedIn and you can type in LinkedIn in the search sales origination think tank. Okay, that's one way. You can also email rvsafeedback@reversevision.com. So I will send a follow-up email with not only the recorded presentation, the recorded webinar from today, the PowerPoint presentation I've illustrated here for you, and also the Excel file for the tool, but I'll give you some instructions. So if you guys would like to be a part of the future groups, how would you get in touch there? Looks like, Cecilia, you have another question. I'm going to take you off mute. All right, you're back.
Nope, I didn't have any other questions.
Oh, your hand
Sorry,
is still...
I should have hit the hand. I'm sorry. There we go.
It's okay. Thank you very much. Okay, let's see. Where did he already jump off? No, he didn't. All right, Joe, you're off mute. What's happening?
Well, I think it would be wonderful if you, so many of our clients, while they may not have zero balance, they might have 30 or 50 or $100,000 balance on their mortgages, and I think that because inevitably, I think that they're looking at their overall financial net worth, And obviously the mortgage and any deferred interest that's added to it has an impact on what the value is for the heirs, right? It's all, a lot of times it's about the heirs, right, and leaving something to them. And I think that being able to incorporate that would be helpful in the future. But I love what you did. It's a great job.
Joe, that's great feedback, and I'd actually tell you, we everything that you're saying right now, just to simplify the tool for right now, we stripped that out. So we had that in there. There was very much a more sophisticated part of the tool where you could enter the total liens, the mortgage amount, the current rate, and so there was a bunch of things happening, but then we felt that that would be overwhelming for maybe the first approach. So we've simplified to what we have today, but I love that feedback because that helps us guide the next iteration of this tool. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Anyone else? Looks like. All right, guys, it looks like that's it in terms of questions. Again, I appreciate everyone's willingness to join and your patience in dealing with me through some of these mistakes here in the beginning. Hopefully you have enjoyed this presentation. You got a lot out of it. I would look for an email probably by the end of the day, if not by the end of today, first thing tomorrow, that would recap this webinar and provide all of those details that you guys are looking for. If needs be, please reach out to me. Again, RVSA feedback@reversevision.com, or you can email me directly at joe@reversevision.com. Thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your week and weekend if we don't talk to you.